That is 5 straight for your Michigan State basketball Spartans. Who on earth was the MVP of this game? No, really. Who on earth do you give it to? Let's go.
You are Locked On Spartans, your daily podcast on the Michigan State Spartans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode of Locked On Spartans is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Spartan friends, Spartan family, Locked On Spartans listeners, how on earth is everyone doing on this fantastic Sunday? I hope that your heart rate is finally below 200 beats per minute. But really, the only number that's important, it isn't our health. Who really cares about that? It's the fact that Michigan State wins their 5th straight game, all against teams that are either in the top 25 or, hey, the only team that wasn't that they've beaten in this streak, well, they were underdogs by about 6 or 7 points. And, started that game down 16 points. But with this team, it just doesn't matter. And, hey, who's that over there? That's Justin Sand of 24/7 Sports. Justin, how are you doing on this Sunday, my good friend?
Matt, there's what can be complained about. We got an Xavier Booker 3. We got a Coen Carr alley-oop, and then probably like another one, and then another one. Multiple Carson Cooper alley-oops.
Oh.
Hard to be disappointed on a day like this. Weather is great, and Michigan State holds the first place ranking in the Big Ten once again after another game.
Just another one of these games, where it's Michigan State, just great defense, holding Wisconsin, one of the league's and nation's best offenses, just 62 points. They held John Tonji to irrelevant status. That's not to call him overrated. He is a very good player, but when Jaden Akins is on you tighter than your own compression shorts, what are you going to do? We've seen that happen with other players around the conference, and just to go along with the theme of the season, oh my God, sorry, it's getting a little boring over here. Justin, Michigan State out-rebounds another team, 51-40 this time. Jaxon Kohler, okay, yeah, whatever, just 16 rebounds, 7 of them offensive. It was truly just what they've been doing all season long, getting contributions from all around the court. This is a special team. Stop me if I'm getting way ahead of my skis, but look, we're less than a half hour removed from this great win. How could anyone be stopped thinking this? Feels like 2019, doesn't it? Like, team hit a kind of a snag in the middle of the season. You have some doubts, and then, well, oh boy, this is going to be a tough last 7 games of the season here. Well, they just go ahead and just win them all, and someone emerges as a top dog like Cassius Winston did. You got that right here in Jase Richardson, and even for his standards, just an okay game. But, man, it's a special team. I know I'm stating the obvious now, but there is a specialness in the air in East Lansing, Justin.
Yeah, Matt, it's one of those teams where it's like you go into every single game not only feeling very confident about the fact that, like, no matter who's on the court, they're going to give it their all. And whichever guys aren't having a good game, enough guys will come out to offset it. And we saw that once again today. First half, we saw Jaden Akins kind of go nuclear, probably his best offensive stretch in a while. At the same time, when Trey Holloman had to step up and kind of give heavy minutes when Jase Richardson went out, he necessarily wasn't looking great. And yeah, down 2 at the half. And these are the things that make a great team. These are the teams that give the team the depth and kind of the moments of kind of resilience that they need throughout the year. They're winning in different ways. They're winning kind of with different formulas almost every single game, but then the core principles are still the same. They're going to try to out-rebound you. They're going to defend like crazy, and they're going to make sure that you're going to be running the entire game. And we kind of saw Wisconsin's bigs at the end there kind of become a little bit of a non-factor even offensively just because of how Kohler was working them on both ends throughout the game. And yeah, it's I see on the side that we're going to talk about like who gets the MVP for this game. And it's a tough one because if you kind of just look at different stretches of the game, like Akins had that stretch that kept Michigan State in it, but then he kind of really didn't do much for the rest of the game after that. Jase had a great second half, not just scoring wise, but in a lot of the intangible metrics too, and jumping in passing lanes. And he had 5 or 6 rebounds too. And but didn't do much in the first half. So like everyone contributed like bits and pieces throughout the game, and that kind of makes this team what it is.
It's beautiful. And of course, we are going to try to debate who the MVP is or our top 5 guys from this game. I don't know how the conversation is going to go, quite frankly, but really quick, I guess egg on my face for being dead wrong in the preview show with Locked On Badgers. Our guy Ryan Herring's over there. We both said, with some stats attached to it, with how good Wisconsin is offensively, how solid Michigan State is too, that this is going to be a game where it's the first team to the upper 70s, really. This isn't going to be your old school MSU versus Wisconsin. First team to 60 wins this game. No, of course that's what it boiled down to. Justin, I mean, this was always going to be a rock fight. That's just in the DNA of Wisconsin versus Michigan State basketball. Wisconsin, they were ice cold from three-point land. They got 32 attempts off, just made 5 of them. John Tonji, 1 of 8 from behind the arc. Man, I thought it was fascinating, too, because Michigan State, they were not hedging on the ball screens like I thought they were going to. Yeah. They went under on a lot of screens, and I'm thinking, like, this is a good Wisconsin team. I don't know how sustainable that's going to be, but sure enough, leave it to the mastermind that is that coaching staff and Tom Izzo to put the faith in the defense's hands there that everything is going to be okay. So I just had to make a mention to, once again, collectively the group effort on defense over the whole game. And we also got to point this out, too, because this has been the favorite trend, putting the clamps down late in the game. You've all seen the stats, no shots made for Michigan in the last 4 minutes, none for Purdue in the last 5 or whatever it was. Illinois, they went the last hour and a half in their own gym not scoring. This one, just 2 field goals in the last 4 minutes against Wisconsin. One of those was a layup very late in the game. So when it's closing time, go ahead and board those windows up because ain't no one getting inside. It's amazing.
Yeah, it almost is kind of like the opposite of last year's team. Well, and pretty much every single way it's the opposite of last year's team, but especially this run where like you'll watch a game in the second half where last year Michigan State would make one of those signature vanity comebacks of like they trim it from like down 11 to like down 3. And then the final 4 minutes, the other team would go on that scoring run that this year the other teams are not going on. And it's kind of the opposite of we saw the stats and you just touched on them there. Like the last like 4 or 5 minutes of like 3 of the last big wins have kind of gone in that way of just the water's been completely shut off. And it's every single position. It's every single guy. Like I know like Jaden Akins is probably like in that defensive player of the year category for the Big Ten, but like all of these guys, like Jase Richardson, like obviously he like the reason that he's flying up the draft boards isn't because of the defense, but his hands are active as anyone, and he's fighting through every single screen. And Kohler's back there, like obviously like the measurables aren't there, but he makes up for that with his motor like 10 times over. Carson Cooper, like say what you will about maybe not having the best offensive touch, but that guy's defending like crazy and then running as hard as he can to go get the oop. Like every single guy on this team is fully bought in. And we can debate like the roster construction of like, oh, like what, like if Michigan State loses in the Final Four, but not the national title game, somebody on Twitter is going to be like, oh, you know what? They would have won those extra 2 games and they would have won the national title if they would have gone and gotten like, I don't know, a Terrace Reed or something. There's always going to be like, unless they win the national title, someone's like, oh, they need to get maybe like a little bit better at center than they got last year. And those points could be valid. But the way that every single person on this team is bought in and everyone has the most low maintenance, low ego kind of approach to every facet of the game of basketball, I think it's like the greatest formula in basketball right now. And they don't have a Janai Broom. They don't have a Mark Sears. But like, man, like this team is constructed in the way where everyone is going to give you everything they have for every single minute of every single game.
Down 11 in the first half, and you're sitting there as a Michigan State fan, probably thinking, I don't want to speak for everyone here, but this is what's going through my head. Like, all right, we've seen it. We've seen this before, double-digit deficit in the first half. Like, how are they going to do it this time? Because we know they're going to find a way. Again, They did it at Illinois. Michigan, I don't think it ever got to double digits. If it did, I apologize, but I think it was like 9-ish points, whatever, in the first half. But still, they stomached whatever it was, an 18-0 run by the Wolverines that game. I mean, Purdue was up 8 on them early on in the game. It's like, they got mental fortitude. And that's not to say, like, oh, teams in the past are just mentally weak and soft. I'm just saying, like, this one is really headstrong. Like, they have bought in completely. Yeah,
the game starts, Matt, once they're down like 9 in the first half. That's when the game
starts. It's almost like comforting to them. Yeah, that's right. It's
that Xavier Booker 3 to stop a 3-minute scoring drought. That's when the game officially begins for the 2024-25 Spartans.
That is the free space on the bingo card the last, 2-3 weeks is MSU down a dozen. Booker finding nothing but the nylon here. We're going to talk about who on earth the MVP is for this game. Sorry to keep kicking this topic of conversation down the road, but this could truly take us 20 minutes to sift through. But first, need to talk everyone's ears off about Roy. Oh, this is a timely sponsor right here. Attention, Locked On Spartans fans. Ever wish you could directly support your favorite Spartan athletes and be part of their journey? Well, now you can with Roy, the NIL app that puts fans in control. Now, before Roy, NIL deals were often handled behind closed doors, and fans like you didn't have a clear way to directly support the players that you love. And there's There's no shortage of that at Michigan State, let me tell you. Now with Roy, you can make a real impact and feel closer to the athletes representing Michigan State. With Roy, you get to choose the player you want to support. So if you're impressed by Jaxon Kohler's rebounding, Jase Richardson just being Jase Richardson, Akins putting the clamps down on defense, whatever it is, we'll decide how much you want to contribute and get exclusive content straight from the athletes that you back. And guys, I know it's an ever-changing landscape. The best part, if your player transfers, well, you get your money back. So it's a risk-free way to show your support and make your voice heard. So support your favorite players directly and help shape the future of Michigan State sports. Download the Roy app now from the App Store and start backing Michigan State athletes the way they deserve with transparency, trust, and real impact. This is the future of college sports. Join it now by downloading Roy and supporting your favorite Spartans. All right, let's drag it back out here. It's the one, the only Justin Thin of 24/7 Sports. And MVP, my God, we could just do this as simple as this, just going down, gush over every single player, and then just spit out a name at the end because, okay, Jaxon Kohler, career high 16 rebounds, 7 of those offensive. Also had 10 points, which kind of flew under the radar. Jaden Akins, nuclear in the first half, 4 3-pointers, 19 points overall. And, oh, yeah, him and Frankie Fiddler, yes. It was kind of a joint party there, but completely shutting down who could very well be the Big Ten Player of the Year in John Tonji, okay? Jase Richardson just being Jase Richardson, 11 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, a steal that was very timely. I mean, where do you want to end here? Coen Carr, yeah, just 4 points. Tell me those weren't the most 4 electric points that you could possibly have this afternoon at Breslin Center. Yeah, I love this team, man.
I think I have to go with Jase Richardson here just because of the fact that to basically have all of those numbers, 11, 5, and 6, for all of it to essentially be in one half,
yes,
it just shows like down the stretch how clutch it was. And I remember like I was looking at the box score, like 5-6 minutes left. Don't quote me on that, but like something along that lines. And he had like 2 assists. So like he basically was averaging like an assist a minute to close out this game to bring this victory home. There was that one stretch where I think it was like 65-60. And that was kind of, the game was in the balance. Wisconsin had just missed a 3, I believe, on the possession prior. Jase comes, or I guess Fears brought it back the other way, passed to Jase on the top right elbow, and then he found the extra pass underneath to a cutting somebody. But like that play in my mind was like, this is a winning play that like it's not going to show up in terms of like his points per game. And when they're talking about how good Jase has been over a 7-game stretch and they're talking about his numbers in that stretch, those are the kind of plays, that extra pass, that I think like really have separated him from just being a guy that's like a cookie cutter scorer. They're like, give him the ball, get out of the way. He'll probably score 14 points, win us a game. He's doing a bit of everything now. And also the rebound number you said there, I think it was 5 rebounds. And
5 or 6, yeah.
5 rebounds. And then I think mixed in that stretch where he brought down like 3 or 4 rebounds in a row was also like a loose ball to the top of the bench that went out of bounds that became Michigan State ball. And then he was like suffocating guys as they were trying to fight through screens. So I think for me, the fact that he did all of that in a relatively short spurt and the fact that he did a bit of every single thing, I think for me, he's the MVP, even though you got to give that shout out to Kohler having just one of the best offensive rebounding games I think I've ever seen from a Michigan State player.
Jase is just so good. I could just go on and on, just gushing over this freshman player for forever. But I think the 2 biggest plays, like he has tough finishes at the rim. He had that early 3-pointer to get Michigan State going offensively. I think you got to go to the assist column because 2 of them were fantastic. He didn't really have control of the ball on the opposite end of the court. Somehow got a hand on it and threaded the needle to Akins for a transition dunk, okay? Yeah. Or late shot clock. The whole world thinks that, okay, this is Jay's time to be assertive. This is what Michigan State wants to get going here as we get further into March, is Jase being the alpha dog. Cuts on the baseline, and hey, there's my friend Jaxon Kohler right there waiting for a layup. Just unselfish in just the nick of time with the shot clock.
Yep.
Dumping that off for the easy 2 is fantastic. I mean, for MVP, this, oh my God, this sounds, and I've thought about this for 45 minutes. How do you pick between these 3 guys, Jase, Jaden, and Jaxon? I think I'm going to go with Jaden Akins here, though, just because his 4 threes kept you in that game. Then again, you're not getting one of those 3s without the Jaxon Kohler offensive rebounds. But I'm also going to go on the opposite side of the ball for Jaden Akins because look, his slump has been well storied here the last 3-4 weeks, shooting about 28% on the season and also during that month-long stretch in February, okay? We're all waiting. please just get out of the slump somehow. If there's any way you could possibly do it now. And he had the opposite of what he's had the last few weeks, because he's had games where he's silent in the first half, then mitigates the damage and has a really solid second half offensively. Now, he got on it early in the first half when Michigan State needed him the most, and just the whole 40 minutes, just shutting down John Tonji. The Jaden Akins experience, I'd rather be in a coffin buried 6 feet below dirt and trying to get my way out of that situation than having Akins draped on me for however long he played, 30 whatever minutes. It's impressive what he does, but man, again, stupid to look at 10 and 16 from Jaxon Kohler and not say like, no, that's your going away MVP. That's what kind of a game Michigan State had to have today, is just ace performances.
Yeah, I think the most underrated point of what you said is the fact that like he's had this rough stretch. So him having this game right now at the final stretch was so big for him and obviously big for the team. And again, like in that first half, like he kind of was the only one mostly keeping them afloat.
Yeah.
Like obviously Jase was in that foul trouble. Holloman didn't take advantage from the extra minutes. Fears didn't really do a ton offensively there. There was that Booker 3. Even Kohler, I think, missed a couple bunnies, and I think a lot of the O rebounds started happening in the second half. So he was almost like by himself keeping MSU in this game. And then I think he ended like 5 for 17 or something, 6 for 18 or something along those lines, Akins. But at the end of the day, like he carried the torch and handed it off to whenever everyone else was ready to step up in the second half and bring this home. So I think that definitely is right. Because if you're down like 7 or 9 at halftime instead of down 2, which probably was Akins is doing to get it close, could be a whole different ballgame. So I like that answer for sure.
We just got to talk about Jaxon Kohler, though. Like, that's not a question. That's just wax poetically about this guy. I mean, he's everything that an OKG is, right? From American Fork, Utah, of all places, of course, from the popular Michigan city of American Fork. Like, that is just what Michigan State basketball is built on. It sounds so cliche. It sounds so corny. If you're an outside fan looking in, you're probably thinking, like, what are these two Looney Tunes talking about? But if you're a Michigan State fan, you get it. Like, the gritty player, a touch undersized, but it is just effort on top of effort on top of effort, and that is what Jaxon Kohler gave to you. I mean, the guy is just an energizer bunny on the boards. I'll say it again. 7 offensive rebounds. That certainly helps Michigan State get to their 12 second chance points today. They don't win this game without him.
Yeah. Matt, there was a player at Penn State a couple years ago, John Harrer. And
I hated that guy. He was so good. Yeah.
All he did, he never really scored anything, and Kohler's better offensively than him. But I remember I used to say to myself, if Michigan State simply had a guy that just rebounded as hard as John Harrer did, Harrer was like 6'9", 6'10".
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, all Michigan State needs at center is just get one guy that just grinds, that just has the motor like John Harrer. If he doesn't give anything offensively, whatever, just bring it down, get it to somebody else, and they'd be so elevated in their interior play. And Kohler has become John Harrer plus. And I remember, I think I even wrote a column like 2 years ago, kind of just saying like Michigan State has to go find their John Harrer. And they did. They found him. It just took an extra year or two. And who knows, last year if Kohler doesn't have that offseason foot fracture that kind of kept him out for the first 2 months, and where he basically missed all the tune-up games against bad teams and came right in like the second week of January conference play or something along those lines. If that goes differently, maybe the whole offseason dialogue around Jaxon Kohler this past offseason is different and his legacy is viewed differently. But lucky for him and lucky for Michigan State, this junior season and whatever he does next season has rewritten everything about him. He has kind of exemplified the Michigan State developmental program arc of that. This is how success is had around these parts. Coen Carr was kind of the early season example of that as well. And it's not that he's fallen off or anything, but I'm like, both of these guys in the same sense are like, this is what Michigan State basketball is when they're good. And these examples are what make them great.
100%. And I want to ask you your favorite sequence or play of the game here in a hot second, but first need to talk everyone's ears off about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Guys, when the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on all that action with FanDuel. Like I said, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on that fourth quarter comeback, well, you can stay in that action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. Guys, for example, I love using FanDuel's live betting features because it keeps every game exciting, no matter if it's a 20-point blowout going into the third overtime, whatever it is. Hey, if you want your heart rate to go up a little bit more this March, yeah, head on over to FanDuel. Let's go. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Let's drag it back out here. Justin Thin, 24/7 Sports. Okay, yes, yeah.
Yes, very professional, I must say. You teased to me what you were going to ask me right before the commercial. Gave me a second to think about it. This is podcasting right here. Okay, so I have your answer to the question of what was my favorite stretch of the game. Mm-hmm. And I went back and I looked at the game log here just to make sure I wasn't misremembering it. Wisconsin was up 43-42 with 15:23 in the second half left. This was the last time Wisconsin would lead in this ball game. After this, Jase Richardson hits a 3 at the 15-minute mark, and then Carter Gilmore hits a 2 on the other end, tied at 45. Then a Frankie Fiddler 3 and a Frankie Fiddler 2. And Michigan State pushed that lead to 5, and that lead was never given up again. That, I think, kind of even in the moment was like, all right, they got their signature 5-point burst from Frankie Fiddler, and now it's over. Now there's no way they can lose. And it kind of goes to show, again, like it exemplifies how there's so many different guys contributing. Like Frankie Fiddler, I would say probably had like the 4th best game today out of the big 3 that we kind of talked about for the MVP discussion, ended with 9 and 6. And he just has this knack of kind of like getting a blue collar bucket, going to the other side, playing defense, coming to the other side, not really forcing a heat check, playing defense again, coming back a 3rd possession later, hitting a shot and like foul baiting like the next possession, ending his hot stretch there. But like, this is what kind of like it exemplifies, like there's different guys and different stretches of the game that keep the team afloat and keep the team kind of propelling forward. And I don't know that many teams in college basketball that have that many different guys that put together those like 3-minute stretches. There's obviously not many guys in all of college basketball that are putting together like 7-8-minute stretches of pure dominance. Like those are the guys going in the lottery. But like the guys that are putting the 3 to 4 minute stretches, to me, like those guys, if you have like 4 of them, 5 of them, I think that sets you aside from kind of every other team that's in the same kind of relative plane as you. And I think we're going to see this in March. And it's going to be the teams that for every Carson Edwards and Johnny Davis and all these guys that come through these storied programs in the Big Ten, but then don't make great runs in March, even though Carson Edwards kind of did. But so I defeated my own point there. But like for every guy that's like that, it's these guys that have like a guy that'll give you a 4-0 run here, a 3-0 run here, a 6-0 run here. Those are the guys I really like to see. And I think Frankie Fiddler is kind of one of those guys that he's going to have a few bursts like that in March.
And just great defense, too. Like that cannot be said enough what he did this game. Whenever Akins wasn't on the court, it was Fiddler primarily on Tanji. And like off ball, on ball, through screens, whatever it was, he was in his shoes. Like it was just sensational what he did. Even though as like that bigger bodied wing, he had the movement of a guard today. It really seemed like on defense. The sequence of the game, like I got to go to the Coen Carr one where he saved the ball from going out of bounds. And then, why is he off the frame? Oh, no, he's actually right there. And he's taken off from 15 feet away from the hoop, and he's going to flush it home. Yeah, that was obviously a big swing. You could say it was a 4-point swing, but I had like an epiphany in the first half, just like how insane this is for Coen Carr, just the way he plays basketball. He had that amazing reverse alley-oop in the first half, and I'm on my couch. I'm like, no, all right, there we go, Coen. I'm like, wait a minute, I should be like freaking out. I should be losing my mind right now after that. Like this guy is so athletically gifted. He brings the Thunder every game so much to a point where you just expect 1 or 2 of those moments now. What we just saw there should be the number 1 play in SportsCenter top 10, unless someone wants to pull a Trey Holloman and bury one from 60 feet. Whatever it is, by the time SportsCenter rolls tonight, it's just remarkable. Yeah, what he does for this team. I just love this team.
Yeah. Side note on that play, Matt, where Carr ran the length of the court after saving it and then dunked it. Holloman dished that pass to him, and he did not get credit and assist in the CBS Sports app. And I just wanted to point this out.
What's going on here?
I know.
How's that possible?
Carr caught the ball and in succession took 1-2 steps and then jumped. And I don't know. That should be an assist. And there's no possible way that I'm only bringing this up because one of my friends had possibly asked me to give him a minus 180 lock, and I might have told them Trey Holloman 3+ assists, and that possibly couldn't be why I'm mentioning this.
You know what I was gonna say? Did someone in this conversation potentially open up their FanDuel account and fancy some
Not
prop
me.
bets
It was
before
a
this
recommendation
game.
I made. But,
If I know anything about my good friend Justin, it's that the sports betting is not for him. Please don't be ridiculous.
Got to check the Merrimack score to see how that's going.
Oh my God. Call the number. What else do you want to say about this team? Like, obviously 5 straight games. Like, I don't want to do the whole conversation of, what makes you nervous for March? Like, we've done a few of those topics, the last few weeks. Obviously, the 3-point shooting's still a thing. You still need some from Jeremy Fears. I don't really want to do the topic of conversation because, again, if you missed the start of the show, 5 straight wins, as we all know, all against either top 20 teams or teams you were underdogs by 7 points against and came back down from 16 points in the first half. Like, it's a special team. What's the ceiling here, Justin? What's the ceiling?
I think the ceiling is that they can beat pretty much everybody in the country except Auburn and Duke if they played today.
Yeah.
I guess we'd have to see as the next 3 weeks unfold if their 3-point shooting looks more like the Michigan game or if it looks more like a lot of the other games we've seen this year, and that would help define it. If it's not so much like the Michigan game, which I know that was like a 40% shooting day, so that's probably too much to ask. But if it's not closer to like 34-ish percent, 36%, then you probably can add a few more teams in there, your Houstons of the world, your Alabamas of the world. But right now, I think this team at least should be able to make an Elite Eight, barring like a ridiculous like 1 for 17 3-point shooting day or something like that. And then you got to see kind of what the bracket looks like from there, what it looks like in terms of who they would be playing in that Elite Eight, or if not further, and go from there. I don't necessarily know if it's a team that can win the national title, but I think it's about as good as every single team you could possibly list in the tier just below that. And I honestly don't know how big that tier is of the national title for sure. I know I put Auburn and Duke up there, probably have to put Florida up there, Alabama or Tennessee. I think one of those teams will kind of flame out early in the tournament, but I haven't decided which one. But I think they're as good as any non-ultra super juggernaut team in college basketball, and the sky's the limit.
I keep watching Auburn and Duke to like, hey, maybe this is the game where they actually look human. They're going to look vulnerable. They're college kids. They can't bring it every single night, can they? And, well, wouldn't you know, son of a gun, they do bring it every single night. Really quick, 131 Sports. That's our favorite bracketology that we go to. He's top 5 year in and year out in bracketology. We're actually going to talk with Joe Cook-Sugar of 131 Sports this week. If you have any bracketology questions, hit us up, lockedonspartans@gmail.com. But before this game tipped off against Wisconsin, Michigan State, the 2 seed in Cleveland, but in the West region, that will be in San Francisco. So that would be against Central Connecticut State as a 15 seed, and then opposite of Mississippi State and Baylor as a 7 and 10 seeds. It's funny, or maybe it's not funny. Maybe it paints a great picture of the mental illness I have in March. I've decided bravely, Justin, that I don't want to face any team. Like, when I'm looking, I'm like, what 7 or 10 seeds do I not want to face in the second round? And it's just all of them. I'm a coward. I'm a wuss. I am a baby, and I am not built for this month, and I never will be. So that's my closing take right there. That's the 411 on your bracketology, everyone.
Yeah, it is interesting because, like, if you think about the kind of team that, like, you don't want Michigan State to face or the kind of team you do want them to face, I almost would think, like, every single team that's built where they have like one like star player, Michigan State can throw so many different guys on them, like from like a wide range of like measurables. Like if it's like a guard, like you can like cycle like Akins and Fears and Holloman through those guys. If it's a little bigger of a guy, you're also starting to get into that like Akins Fiddler mold. Like I think I'd take a team that has kind of that like March, like kind of like single star led team. Like the kid at Mississippi State whose name's not coming to me.
It's what's his face, you know. Oh my
God.
Josh
Hubbard, right? Josh Hubbard.
Thank you.
Yeah. Like I'd rather face that kind of a team more so than a team that's similar to a Maryland team, which I know Michigan State just beat them. But the game before the Michigan State Maryland game, Maryland had like 4 guys to go minus odds for 15 plus points. Like that's a type of a team that kind of scares me more so than a Josh Hubbard led team. So I guess we'll see what the selection committee chooses, but give me that like one Trae Young type of a roster construction team in March any single day.
Got to end it with two things here. One, shout out to MSU hockey. We're going to get more into it this week. We're going to have Jeremy Dewar of Spartans Illustrated on to do an adequate enough job of talking hockey. Like, I do watch the sport. I understand what's going on, but not at the level that Jeremy does. But shout out to Adam Nightingale, second Big Ten title in a row. They get the 1 seed in the tournament. That means games will be played at Munn should they keep winning. And yeah, they are very securely in that position to be a 1 seed for the NCAA tournament. Again, a lot more hockey talk coming to start the week coming up here. And then, number 2, Michigan State baseball ranked in the top 25. I have a listener that keeps pinging me on Twitter about that. Sorry, I've been kind of ignoring Michigan State baseball, but yeah, I saw the rankings come out. I'm like, are Michigan State? Like, not club, like actual NCAA. So good on Jake Boss's baseball Spartans. And then number 3, Justin, anything you want to plug here before we let you go and enjoy the rest of your weekend?
No, I don't think so. It's just I'll start putting out those kind of articles I do every year around this time now that March has officially started, of kind of the bracket roundup, where I'll kind of look at the highest ranked bracketologists on Bracket Matrix, and then kind of look at the ones that I've updated the most recently, put an ensemble of that together. But yeah, no, other than that, thanks for having me, Matt. It's always great catching up with you, and it's especially great catching up when the vibes are high and the team is this good.
We're smiling on Locked On Spartans here in the month of March. Like, it is a blessed time here in this history of the podcast. From one great basketball mind of Justin Thin to another, we have Evan Maya on tomorrow's show, or Evan Mia. I'm going to get the pronunciation right before we record. But if you are on Twitter, you know who this guy is. Great with the analytics, great with the numbers, great basketball mind. He's going to talk about our Michigan State Spartans and just what makes them so good. But until then, take care of yourselves. How can you not in a weekend like this? Love you all. Go Green. God, it's great.